I'm John Connor Colston here for our latest Pop Culture at Home session with the amazing, incredible, legendary Mr. Crispin Glover. Crispin, how you doing today?
Very good. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Doing pretty
Good.
well. It's
Good.
I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, so weather's
Great.
dropping a little bit here, but we're just doing the best we can with this crazy year.
Yeah, absolutely. You dropping, I don't know what you mean by dropping.
Oh, the weather's dropping a little bit, so
Oh, okay.
a little cooler. I had to get a hoodie
Good.
on today when I was walking my dog.
Right.
But yeah, so we're talking about the Smiley Face Killers. It's your new film. Of course, I'm excited about this film because the director is Tim Hunter, who
Yeah,
also directed one of your best films, in my opinion,
that's
River's
right.
Edge. How did
Yeah.
this reunion come about, and how did you get attached to the project?
Tim contacted me, and I was working on my own film. I've made, as a director, I've made two feature films, and I'm currently working on a third feature film that I've been working on for many years. Uh, I produce these films on my own, and I've been touring with them for years. But I was in the midst of production on my own film. Tim contacted me. He, I actually turned the film down at first, mainly because I looked at it. I was in the midst of my own work, and I felt that the character really only needed an interesting looking person. It wasn't something that required an actor necessarily, or an actor that's I don't know. There's certain parts that you really need an actor for, and there's certain parts that you can just get a person that works well in the role. And I kind of thought that's what this should be, some kind of interesting looking person. So I turned it down, but Tim was pretty insistent, and he talked to me. We got on the phone, and I said, I did, there was this element about a prosthetic, and I said, well, it's come to happen a lot in contemporary filmmaking is you can tell that it's kind of almost like a mask,
Yeah.
as opposed to something like Lon Chaney we used to do, where it's using the physical facial features of a person and malforming it in such way. And I said, if we could do that, okay, well, let's, I actually really didn't concentrate on it much. I knew that it was written by Bret Easton Ellis, who's of course well respected, and that I said, do you like the script? Is this something you feel can be good? And he said yes. And I said, all right, well, I trust you. If we can do the kind of Lon Chaney style work, I'll do it. But I was like shooting on my own film the day before I had to get into Las Vegas. I drove to Las Vegas, and then it was so my mind was really on my own film production. But I was glad to work with Tim again, and I knew that it would be a good script, being written by Bret Easton Ellis, and that Tim liked it. And so I had a meeting in the Valley with our makeup fellow who did an excellent job. He knew exactly what I meant. He gave me all the kind of secrets and breakdown of the kind of things that Lon Chaney had done, and we didn't want to do exactly what he did, but something where you use like hooks and a prosthetic and latex that goes over the hooks.
Huh.
There's a reason they don't use it anymore, because it is, after a while of wearing it, it is painful.
Yeah, well, I
But
can only imagine.
what Lon Chaney went through, even just with those things, the amazing things that he actually physically did as an actor with binding his arms or legs, it's just, he went through genuine pain. So the little amount that I went through, it makes me admire even more what he did, and great performances as well. But it was something I asked for, so I couldn't complain.
Yeah.
And I'm happy. I was happy with the look.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique
Yeah,
feel. And while I know it's Crispin Glover obviously doing it, but like
yeah,
all of that addition to it, there's just something so different and sinister about it. It's not
good,
just, hey, let's shove an actor in here. So it adds another dimension to the performance.
good,
And
good.
in this character, it's kind of a hooded figure lurking, kind of the protagonist, kind of lurking behind them.
Yeah,
And it leads to some pretty brutal scenes and confrontations. I don't want to spoil too much.
right.
But when you go to film some of the more brutal scenes as an actor, how do you get in that mindset? Is it do you have to get kind of bleh and disassociate for a little bit, or is it just like an on and off switch for you? You're doing a job. Can you just hit somebody in the head and then be smiling and joking between takes?
Uh, well, you know, you in the generally in the kind of training that I had, it's the idea of taking specifics within your own mindset and then utilizing it for the reality of the situation. So you want to get into those moments in some way or another. But I've never had an issue in general with like getting into character than pulling out of character. That's never been a difficulty. Sometimes, I mean, ideally, you know, the thing that people talk about a lot, which sometimes I think is over talked about, but the idea of staying in character, I think there is genuine benefit to that. For sure. If the whole production can be on that realm, and ideally if it's like a theater game where everybody's doing it and is on the same page, that's great. But then there's sometimes where it's, you know, it's virtually impossible because there's technical aspects or whatever. You've always got to be aware of certain things. But yeah, you want to get into it as much as you can, and but certainly it would be very strange, I think, if somebody could not pull out of it. That would be that
Yeah.
would be difficult if you were playing a murderer and you just had to keep murdering. Be a problem.
Yeah, there'd be more issues than just a spotty performance or something.
That's right.
We'd have other concerns then.
Right, right.
You mentioned your own film work, and I know one thing you do with your films is you like to take it around and tour.
Yeah,
And obviously, with this year, with the coronavirus
right.
pandemic,
Yeah,
live events, live gatherings haven't been
yeah,
able to happen, or at least they have to be in a limited capacity.
sure.
As someone who does these live performances and shows, how are you feeling about all this? Are you hopeful to get out on the road next year again, or what are you thinking?
Well, luckily I did perform at the very beginning of the year with my first film. It was the what was it, the 15th anniversary of What Is It, my first feature film I directed, and I performed it at the Castro, which is a beautiful venue in San Francisco, nice old vaudeville venue, which are my favorite to perform in. And I've performed at least once a year, every year since 2005, even this year. But I don't know, you know, no one knows yet what's going to happen next year. Obviously, if it's unsafe, there's nothing we can do. We just have to wait until it's safe again. I certainly, like everybody, hope it gets safe again soon. I would love to get back to touring. I very much enjoy touring. It's a nice respite from there's I'm glad that I have different kinds of work that I can do. I very much enjoy acting in various productions, and I very much enjoy making my own films. And then I very much enjoy touring with. There's a live show that I perform as well, a hour-long live performance of books that I made a long time ago. Most of them. So there's one in particular that's a bit newer, that was specially made for live performance. But I have them projected behind me, and then I dramatically narrate the books. Each show, there's two different shows before the two different films, and I usually perform and present the two films on subsequent nights. So I enjoy doing that as well. And then I have show present the feature film, then I book signing, and so I meet with people. And of course, all of that's, yeah, it's impossible right now. I've never let the films out digitally. I've kept them in the theatrical cinematic realm, which is what the films are made for. And luckily, I've been able to afford to do that with the films. I sure hope I can continue. I do get concerned about it. I like to believe that, like the 1918 pandemic, it it subsided after a while, but that took at least, I think, 2 years for that to subside, and I sure hope we can, get back to some kind of normality soon.
Definitely, definitely. Well, one thing your fans can enjoy during the pandemic is, I believe you guys already shot American Gods season 3, correct?
Yeah,
It's coming out at the beginning of
I
the year.
was just there in like the very beginning of March in Toronto, and then I went to Czech. I got into Czech March 8th. That's where I shot my new film, the one I'm doing the post-production on there, and I was there for that. Then I was there for 9 months, and when everything shut down. And luckily, I happened to be working on a production right now, which I didn't expect. So I'm surprised that I've worked as much as I have this year. Grateful that I have. Yeah.
Nice. Another one of your roles I did want to ask about. It's the 30th anniversary of Wild at Heart, and of course
Oh, good.
we're getting close to Christmas time, and it's a very Christmassy character. What
Yeah.
are some memories or that you have of that production, or looking back on it now? What do you think of that experience
Well,
with David Lynch?
David Lynch is one of my favorite people in the whole world. He's great. And Eraserhead for me, when I was 16 years old, was a really important film to me. And it's still, I love that film. And it had strong impact both on me as an actor in certain ways, and also later as a filmmaker as well. And then David Lynch had agreed to executive produce my first feature film, which was to be what's going to be part 3 of the trilogy called It Is Mine. The weird thing is he had it was kind of a autobiography, memoir thing that came out a couple of years ago. And I didn't realize that David Lynch had thought that he had executive produced What Is It? Because I went over to his house. I showed him What Is It was originally to be a short film to promote getting corporate money for It Is Mine, Part 3. And neither David Lynch or I are particularly oriented toward contracts. It was just done in a friendly way. And I went over and I showed him the film, and he was complimentary about it, but he didn't say he wanted to executive produce it. So I thought, oh, I guess he just wants to executive produce It Is Mine. But then when I read the memoir, I realized, oh, he thought he did. I could have been advertising this for the last 15 years, David, because he really was helpful. I mean, he's great. And I loved working with him on Wild at Heart. I was in another thing, a pilot he did for something for HBO called Hotel Room. He's just great. I can only say the greatest things about David Lynch. He's just fantastic.
Well,
I'm really glad I've gotten to know him and work with him. That he's been a genuinely helpful mentor, like figure person for my own filmmaking, which is just, well, I couldn't ask for more. It's fantastic. Mm-hmm. I can't say enough good about him.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, you have Smiley Face Killers coming out on video on demand and physical copies as well. We've got American Gods coming soon. What else is what's your next thing? And we can end on that. What's
the season 3 of American Gods comes out early. I don't know the exact date. January, somewhere in the early weeks of January. I'm completing this film I've been working on for many years with myself and my father. I'm hoping there's delays also because of the situation, but I believe I'll have that completed. It's been delayed a bit by January, February, but then there's still how I will distribute it. I'm not certain. And then I'm working on something right now. I've just started, so I don't feel like I should talk about it too much, but there's other things on the horizon as well. So, CrispinGlover.com is a good way for people to find out where I am. And I know Smiley Face Killers comes out, I think it's all like in the early weeks of December, I think the 9th or something. I'm sorry, I don't know the details. I'm sure you guys have them.